Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Let's see if there's more chat. As you enter Gabbit's cabin, two things grab your attention. The first is Gabbit herself. She looks exhausted, bleary-eyed. The easy smile you've come to associate with her is nowhere to be seen. The second is what she's doing. Gabbit appears to be in the middle of a valiant attempt to stuff a whole roasted duck into a saucepan half its size. The bird's rubbery neck flops from side to side with every heave of her shoulders. She looks up from the saucepan, blinking. A corner of her mouth twitches upward, but the half-smile falls away almost immediately. Huh. Oh, hey, Seattle. Caught me at a bad time. I was just making dinner. I've been watching the struggle. Looks like the duck is winning. Huh? She blinks down at the duck, and her mouth dips into a frown. Oh, it isn't winning. It's just being stubborn. I'll make it fit. Don't you worry. She gives the bird another heave. Something gives way with an audible crunch. This would be easier with a bigger pot. I'd have to wash it first, though. She glances down at the piles of dirty clothes and assorted detritus, although it's technically detritus, but I prefer the pronunciation of detritus, on the floor of her cabin, frowning. And to do that, I'd have to find it. Anyway, you want something? I'm up to my elbows in mallard here. You, feeling okay? She rubs the bridge of her nose with a pair of greasy fingers, leaving smudges of duck fat behind. That's bleh. I would not be able to do that. It's weird. Ever since our last lesson, I've felt, I don't know, preoccupied with the sinking ship. I don't really do the whole haunted by the demons of my past thing. I mean, it's fine for some people, but I'm allergic to drama. Generally, when thoughts of the past get me down, I remind myself that it doesn't matter, laugh it off, and go have a snack. But this, I don't know, it's weird. Ever since our last lesson, I haven't been able to get the sinking ship out of my mind. She looks down at the pot full of mangled duck on the counter, closes her eyes. I guess I'm just worried about Cad and Mal, which is weird, because why would I be? I mean, I haven't even spoken to them in years. Hell, if anything, they should be worried about me. I'm the one who gets shot at for a living. I mean, maybe we should go check it out. No, I don't want to do that. At least not without a good reason. It'd be awkward, and I'm sure it's nothing anyway. Actually, check that. I know what this is. It's my own personal version of the same thing that we're all feeling. Psychic sewage that's been dredged up in all of us by whatever's happening to the walled city. I'm sure you've had some flashes of memory from the Barrens and your bad dreams, right? Images from your past come back to haunt you. But you aren't going to drop everything and go running back there, because that would be dumb. So why should I? Because the sinking ship is like 15 minutes from here? Look, I don't want to go back there if I don't have to. If thinking about the place is enough to mess with me like this, I don't want to know what being there will do. But I'll tell you what, I'll drop Malvina a line, just to check in. Make sure this is a me problem and not a them problem. If there is something going on, I promise you'll be the first to know. If that's the way you want to play it. Is there anything else you wanted, or can I get back to my duck? Yeah, sure. In Seattle, everything will be fine. You'll see. If there is anything fishy happening on the sinking ship, you and Iz will be the first to know. Let's, speaking of, let's see if she has anything new for us. Again, like, okay, so this is my reel. You look happy in there. Like, we've already talked about all of this. Hydration's about way to go. Like, literally, they don't have anything. Oh, strange. Is it because we haven't taken her on any runs? Like, I'm confused. Stepping into Gabbit's cabin, you find her crouching on the floor. She appears to be midway through a valiant struggle against an enormous pastry, having conquered the duck, apparently, in the 2 minutes that we spent outside of here. Her cheeks bulge out like a chipmunk's, and wispy threads of pork floss hang from her crumb-speckled lips. She glances up at you, her eyes wide with alarm. Her jaw works to manage the enormous quantity of crispy dough in her mouth, but she doesn't seem to be making much headway. Between the two of you, my money's on the pastry. She struggles to move her jaw, but her mouth is stuffed too full for her to make much headway. She gestures feebly toward a pitcher of water on the ground near your feet. Think of it like a spectator sport. Do we want to have a little bit of fun or just indulge here? She tilts back the pitcher and sucks down its contents. As the water pours into her mouth, she's slowly able to work through the food stored in her cheeks. Finally, she lowers the water pitcher, coughing. Okay, yeah. Note to self, the pastry terrace on Prince Edward Road makes them dry. She takes another swig from the pitcher, grimacing. Moist green apple and jellied trotter my ass. The thing was like a desert made of pig. Maybe you, shouldn't have tried to cram the entire thing into your mouth at once. I was challenging myself for science. It wasn't the whole pastry, it was just half of one. She lifts the remaining pastry for your inspection. The pork floss that coats its exterior looks almost festive. It's more reminiscent of a beige, curly tinsel than it is food. You want the rest? Sure. She blinks in surprise. Really? Sure, it's all yours. Here, catch. She tosses the remaining pastry to you. It sails through the air, glistening suggestively in the dim cabin light. Let it fall. You snatch the flying pork brick out of the air. It's surprisingly dense, with a heft roughly equivalent to that of a softball. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. You raise the pastry to your lips and take a bite. Seconds later, you can feel all the moisture in your mouth evaporate. Gabbit wasn't lying. This thing is dry. The flavor is surprisingly palatable, though. She blinks at you in astonishment. Huh. Can't believe you ate that. I'm impressed. If I ever get another one of those again, I'm going to let it sit in a bowl of condensed milk for at least half an hour before I try putting it in my mouth. That might help. I don't know. Reconstitute it, I guess? Might work. Anyway, you probably want to talk about what happened on the raft, huh? I think in your place I would. Yeah. Can't believe we told Kylie Ching that we let the plastic guy go, though. We still have our skin, and we aren't chained to a rock at the bottom of the lake, so I'm counting it a win, but next time just lie, okay? The gentle pats turn into slaps. Her smile looks forced. I'm not joking, by the way. Don't do that again. Is that all? That all? That's okay, that's all. So we have no... I still feel like there's something we're missing when it comes to like the followers, because we, you know, in Dragonfall we had all of the like follower missions and stuff, but Ractor's shop is curiously silent. As you step down onto the grated metal floor, the sound of your own footsteps reverberates through the echo chamber of the converted engine room. Welcome back, my friend. He leans against his desk. Is there something that I can do for you? Quiet night in the shop, huh? Yes, quiet night. He takes a drag on his cigarette. One best suited for contemplation, planning, and visions of the future. Care to pick up where we left off? His smile widens. Light gleams off of strong, sharp teeth, lending him a predatory appearance. If you like, I must confess, I've rather enjoyed our talks. It is good to have a sounding board to bounce ideas off of. Pleasant in an academic sense. I thought that we were friends. I'm glad to hear we're on the same page. He takes a drag on his cigarette. I must confess, I sometimes forget how to interact with others. I am, by nature, a solitary creature. It is good to have a kindred spirit, someone whom I can understand on the team. Crochet scuttles forward, mechanical pedipalps weaving. Its motions are as alien and charged with menace as they've ever been. Ractor glances at the machine and takes a step back. He claps his hands together and rubs them briskly. So, my friend, you had questions for me. Go ahead and ask them, please. I will answer whatever I can. What's the full story of Crochet? Yes, I figured you might. Tell me, have you noticed anything unusual about Crochet in the time that we have worked together? He's creepy as hell. Creepy as hell, if that's what you mean. He seems to react to your moods. Like he's semi-autonomous. He nods, his lips pursed. Yes, good observation. Crochet could be described as semi-autonomous, though for a different reason than you might think. And? The drone lowers itself, its killing legs splayed. Ractor looks at the drone, his head cocked. Then he returns his gaze to you. His behavior is not throne-like because he is not a throne. At least not in a way that you would understand. He is a prosthesis. What's he meant to... He isn't meant to replace anything, but he does contain a portion of me, as surely as your brain sits within your skull. We are, in a way, a single entity in two bodies, metal and flesh made one. You're gonna have to explain that. Crochet acts as the home for my primal animal impulses, the id, to use Freud's structural model of the psyche. And the analytical portions of my mind, the ego and superego, live on in me. They govern the id, and by extension, Crochet's behavior. When we're on a run and I rig into Crochet, I do not command him to attack. Rather, I loosen my grip on his reins and allow him to kill. He wants to hunt, to dominate, to bathe himself in blood. Reproduction would also be a drive if such a thing were possible. So if he were killed, he would, what, run amok? He chuckles. No, my friend, of course not. He's not capable of storing any part of the human mind. He simply doesn't have the capacity for it. If I were to die, he would fall dormant, the same as any other drone. One day, perhaps I will perfect him, and a part of me will live on in his chassis after the meat of my body dies. But for now, I'm satisfied to live with him as a combined entity. Man and machine, joined through a form of neuroparabiosis into a single being. A beautiful first step into a post-human future. I guess that if I have to know a mad scientist, I'm glad he's on my side. Well said, my friend, and the feeling is mutual. If I must associate with violent criminals, I suppose that I am happy to call them friends. You said you sometimes forget how to interact with other people. An idiosyncrasy of mine, I suppose. When I get lost in my own head, relating to others becomes difficult. He smiles apologetically. It's nothing personal, just a quirk that I occasionally struggle to hide. I can barely remember how to talk. You talk like a robot. You've always been friendly with me. Ah, but when you come down here, we talk about things that are relevant to my interests. That makes it easier. In any case, thank you. Your kindness is appreciated. So you've rigged your drone to act as a home to your most destructive impulses. Why? As a proof of concept, primarily. There are other advantages... advantages, of course. I shouldn't have to explain the value of a combat drone that wants to kill. Oh, okay. Well, alright. Tell me why you think we're gonna beat the essence limit. You hinted at it before. I could do that. I've already shared quite a lot with you, and you haven't run off screaming. A good sign, I should think. He studies your face, peering at you through the gloom. But tell me, Kira, are you sure you want to know? Some secrets are less pleasant than others. You might prefer to leave the stone unturned. I don't run from things. Very good. There are things that you don't know about me, my friend. Important things. Please tell me this doesn't end with you hitting on me. All kind of things. For one, I'm not, how to put it, whole. Are you talking about your cyberware? He nods. Yes, but not my data jack or the headwear you can see. I'm sporting a great deal of replacement material. You can't see it, but I assure you it's there. There was an accident, you see. A shop accident. I barely survived it. I keep my announcements hidden out of respect for your feelings and those of the other members of the team. Other people have found them, how to put it, unsettling in the past. What kind of enhancements are we talking? He uses the edge of his hand to trace a line across his hips. Everything below the mid-pelvis is replacement material. That's where I was sheared in half, you see. It's a miracle I survived the experience, but blood loss alone should have killed me. But here I am, alive and well. Greatly improved, in point of fact. So, you're half machine? Yes. The loss of so much tissue was traumatic, to be sure, as was the damage to my sense of personal identity, but it isn't so terrible as you might imagine. By every conceivable measure, I'd have been improved since the time of the accident. I am more than I was before, not less. So... How could that not be terrible? He taps his temple with a finger. The doctors installed stimulus generators in my brain when they repaired me. With these, I can mimic the full range of sensations that the human body is capable of producing. Imagine the ramifications of such a thing. The things that you could do, the things you could experience. The implications for operant conditioning alone are staggering. And so, yes, I've lost the entire lower half of my body. The full ramifications of such a loss are obvious, but in return, I've gained so much more. At will, I can goad my brain into producing whatever sensation I wish. I can poke at the wiring of my own consciousness, and I can reroute that wiring as I see fit. What does this have to do with the essence limit? He spreads his arms. Look at me, Kira. I have a shred of essence left in me, and only barely that. But I suffer none of the ill effects associated with traumatic essence loss. How can that be? A quirk of psychology, long viewed as an illness, but never properly understood. What I now understand to be an evolutionary adaptation to a post-human future. We will conquer the essence limit, given time. Natural selection will see to it, and I am proof. Stimulus generators. The technology is rather akin to SimSense, but considerably more powerful and flexible. Most SimSense experiences, those found in PTL chips for example, are structured around basic narratives that provide their users with context. But if you strip away the veneer of escapist fantasy, what you have left is an extremely powerful toolkit. I've never heard of anything like that before. I'm not surprised. They are Russian technology, government-funded and quite experimental. He sucks on his cigarette, a thoughtful expression on his face. The project was cancelled shortly after I received my implants. Something about graft and corruption on the administrative level, yet another example of good science derailed by bad politics. Anyone else? I know of a handful of other recipients. From what I've heard, the others were all driven quite mad. To be handed control of the inner workings of one's own brain is a tremendous responsibility, he shrugs. Perhaps the others were less well-equipped to handle it than I am. The last thing I need is you wigging out on me. I've carried these implants for over 20 years, my friend. I know how to handle myself. You have nothing to fear. I know there's more to this story than this. There is, my friend, but nothing that can't wait until tomorrow. You have a lot to process, I'm sure, and I would like the remainder of the evening to myself. But if you come back later, I will finish the tale. Is it later? Again, the shop is quiet. No hammering of metal, no whine of heavy machinery, nothing but the sound of your own footsteps and the low electrical hum of Ractor's work terminal. The monitor above the work desk is alive with vibrant imagery. Graphs, technical readouts, and reference images fill the screen. He looks up at you, his face bathed in the blue light of the display. Ah, hello, my friend. Back for more answers. I can take time to talk if you can. So apparently it's tomorrow. We're just time warping all over the place here. we need to get a zero escape-esque flowchart for our timelines here. Some loose ends we need to tie up. Yes, my friend, I suppose there are. Go on then, ask your questions, and let us see where your inquiries take us. Essence loss. I did tell you that, and I guess I owe you an explanation. He turns his head slightly, peers at you through the corner of his eye. Tell me, my friend, what do you know about essence loss and its effect on the metahuman psyche? The more detached you become from reality. He nods. Yes, that's right. And this detachment can be deeply traumatic for the sufferer. The literature is full of such cases. He levels his gaze, focuses it in on your face. There's a smile on his face, but his eyes are devoid of warmth. Now, what would you say if I told you that after my accident and subsequent cyber surgery, I felt no different at all? That even in the beginning, I was completely unchanged. I'd ask if you knew why. I do, in fact. Would you like to know? I was born with what society has deemed a psychological defect. Out of fear of social repercussions, I spent most of my life hiding it. I still hide it, even now. The lessons of my childhood were not wasted on me, and I know the value of reputation. But since the accident, I've come to recognize this quirk for what it really is. A selective advantage. Tell me what you're talking about. Yes, of course. I was diagnosed as a primary psychopath at the age of 8. Oh boy. Crochet scuttles forward, brushing up against Ractor's leg. Metal on metal, separated by a thin layer of cloth. The drone's many eyes focus on you, irising wide open and bathing you in a dull red glare. Well, diagnosed is probably not the correct word. There's no formal diagnosis on psychopath in the DSM, but all of the markers were there. I displayed a complete lack of empathy on the Davis Interpersonal Reactivity Index, and I scored the perfect 40 on the PCLR. Blood tests showed that I had inherited a damaged gene that had been linked with aggressive behavior, and the activity level in my ventromedial prefrontal cortex is vanishingly low. Like autism, psychopathy is a spectrum, not a single disorder. He tips his head, smiling, but I'm definitely on that spectrum. So you think this condition is the reason why you didn't suffer the trauma? Yes, my condition is an advantage, one that protected me from the mental trauma of my accident and subsequent reconstruction. The psychological blow of essence loss can be devastating. This mental trauma is ultimately responsible for much of the damage and the self-destructive behavior suffered by those who ride the razor's edge. Of course, there is a physical limit to how far the mental human body can be pushed, but the normal person will reach his mental breaking point far in advance of this. And the loss of self, the loss of capacity, is too painful to bear. But you didn't hit that. No, I did not. Indeed, I am quite certain that my breaking point does not exist. What does it matter to me if my capacity for empathy and conscience is stripped away? I never possessed either of those qualities in the first place. So, does the word friend mean anything to you? Of course it does. The word has always carried a cerebral meaning. I can understand the concept of friendship and what it means to others. I know how important that feeling is, even if I can't experience it myself. People with my condition, my advantage, are not capable of bonding with others. The only difference is that we do so are not incapable. The only difference is that we do so on a cerebral level rather than an emotional one. I enjoy our association, and I recognize the advantage in our being allies. I like talking to you. What better reason for us to be friends? So, got any proof? I have myself, my own experience. Nearly all of my essence was stripped away in a single stroke, and I didn't even notice. What more do you need? Oh boy. That's... Do we question him? Your subjective experience is not enough? I mean... Because on the one hand, that sounds like the sort of thing that should be, like, researched by, you know, people. On the other hand, it's not really a good idea to just dismiss out of hand the personal experiences of people who are actually experiencing firsthand things which you don't know about. I would assume that there aren't any, like, peer-reviewed case studies or anything, I'm sure. I'll take you at your word, and you would be wise to. I speak the truth. My hypothesis makes good sense, my friend. I've never possessed the sense of humanity that others hold so dear. If having it stripped away is traumatic, then it stands to the reason that I would be protected from that trauma. Oh, academic! Blah, blah, blah. This whole theory of yours is based on anecdotal evidence. I don't see why I would need to have academic etiquette for that. It does not take an actual, like, schooled person to realize that a sample size of 1 is not scientific. Isn't it possible that other factors might have come into play? Yes, of course, but this explanation seems the most likely, does it not? I'm certain that in time I will be proven right. More certain of it than I have ever been of anything. Call it the matter of fate, I suppose. I dislike the term, but it applies. If that's the way you want to play this, then fine. Don't expect me to buy into your belief system if it isn't based on facts. A fair point, and a fair criticism. In time, I will endeavor to show you the proof of my beliefs. Until then, think of me as you would any other member of the team. Gabbit has a rat. I have this. It's mine, and you cannot take it from me. I don't... it's a lot to process. Yes, I'm certain it is. For what it's worth, I think that you're handling the information rather well. In the past, there were others who were more rigid in their thinking. When I revealed myself to them, they reacted badly. I'm quite pleased that you haven't done the same. Let's see. If you were born that way, it's not your fault, and I can't hold you accountable for that. I don't judge my allies on what they are, it's what they do that counts. It's... Yeah. A woman after my own heart. I wish that others were so open-minded. I'm not a broken thing to be fixed. I'm exactly what I was meant to be. You don't know how rare it is to find others who accept me as such. And now, if you don't mind, I would like you to leave. There's work to be done. Yeah. We'll talk later. Be well. Is it later? His shop is alive with me. Okay, there's... Like, didn't I do the rounds before the run with the plastic? Like, I could have sworn I talked to these guys. Okay, alright. His shop is alive with motion. Wall-mounted tools hammer and spark, each according to its own rhythm. The cacophony reverberates in the metal confines of the converted engine room, attacking your ears as the light of acetylene torches stabs your eyes. My friend, you've come back. He turns towards you. His boots are off, and you can see the metallic gleam of his feet. Freed from the confines of his boots, the appendages have unfolded. Clawed, gripping toes splay out in all directions, at least 8 to a foot. Interesting. They look alien and predatory, like the talons of some great carnivorous bird. I wasn't convinced you'd want to continue our little chats after the last time. From under his desk, a glint of light catches your eye. Gaucher. I'm glad that I was wrong. I wouldn't miss our talks. I'm pleased to hear you say so. I rather enjoy them myself. He turns, the sound of metal on metal filling your ears. So, what shall we talk about? What you working on? More options for Gaucher, as always. He is still far from perfect, but every iteration inches him closer. So, what's up with your feet there? The replacements that I was fitted with all those many years ago. The many talon-like toes that splay out from his feet claw at the ground, scraping against the metal flooring. They've been modified somewhat between then and now, as you can see. Improved. Which, what'd you base your redesign on? The claws were inspired by the harpy eagle. Quite the majestic creature, a hunter of primates, you know. He smiles. The quantity was driven by artistic license. Impractical, perhaps, but they please me all the same. Questions. The corner of his mouth lifts into a wry smile. I imagine you do. Go on then, ask away. You said you were diagnosed as, so what, oh boy, well, let's just dive right in. What led to that diagnosis? My mother had me tested. She'd always kept a watchful eye on me, obsessively so, truth be told. It was rather a poor way to experience childhood. What did you do? Very little. She blew my childhood behaviors out of proportion, I'm afraid. The woman had always been motivated by fear. She had the reasons, I suppose. What reasons? Malignant narcissism runs in my family. None of the men of my line have understood the concepts of conscience or empathy, and they wouldn't have had much use for them if they had. My grandfather was an abusive drunk who killed his own brother with a gasoline-powered ice auger. My father was a terror to his employees and assistants, a shark in a business suit. I suppose my mother expected me to follow in their footsteps. After a brief pause, his lip tilts into a smirk. I suppose she was right, in a way. My career in the shadows has led me to more bloodshed than my grandfather's mania could ever have hoped to. I was driven to it, though. Driven by theft and betrayal. Left to my own devices, I might never have taken a human life. Maybe you wouldn't have hurt anybody if things had gone differently. I've got my doubts, though. Perhaps you're right. I might have gone on to be a serial killer, or worse. But there is no sense in debating such things. Things happened as they did, and we are both the better for it, are we not? Surely it is advantageous to have me on the team. It's good that you're here. Oh, well then, there you have it. So, what happened? He shrugs. I learned what was expected of me. The doctor was very helpful in that regard. He offered false hope and placebos, and false promises that he could cure me if my family met his price. To me, he offered an escape. All that I had to do was play along, and my problems would be solved. It wasn't difficult to pretend that I had been cured. Once I understood the outward signs that my mother was looking for, I was able to ape them well enough. In time, my mother came around. You pretended to be cured when you weren't. I put on a mask, both for my own benefit and the benefit of my family. I knew what would happen if I didn't. I had been caught, and my mother's scrutiny would only increase if I didn't convince her I was better. My grandfather lived out his final days in the Black Dolphin prison. Do you know the place? I've heard stories. It's a storied place. One of the most appalling entertainment facilities in Russia that's saying quite a lot. I was determined not to follow in the old man's footsteps. I'm not an animal to be caged. Ractor bends down and runs his fingers over Koshay's chassis. The drone stands motionless, the lenses of its many optical sensors focused on you. In any case, there you have it. I'm glossing over many of the details, of course, but I'd rather not discuss my childhood any further. Instead, let us think to the future and the promise that it holds. Speaking of which, so people without empathy, morality, or humanity will replace the rest of us. Yes, people like me. Tell me, my friend, how does that make you feel? What's your gut reaction to the vision that I have shared with you? Well, let's see. On the one hand, like, well, it's a question of, like, what makes us human in the first place, because there are a load of people who really just kind of fail at showing basic empathy, even when they've kind of deluded themselves into thinking that they have it. And like, there are a lot of people who just, they have empathy only for the very specific people that they know, and everyone else can kind of get stuffed. So it's like, empathy and morality are good. They're good ideas, obviously, but when put into practical, like, use, they're not extended as far as they should be. So what would happen if you kind of just took that out entirely? Like, it would have to be, like, the only way that would be sustainable, I imagine, is if you managed to actually make everything very practical and, dare I say, logical. And, like, you'd have to get rid of racism and sexism, and that's been quite the struggle. It terrifies me. He frowns knowingly. Of course it does. You do not share our selective advantage. You see what is to come, and it repels you. For a woman in your position, that is only natural. Revulsion is the expected response. I promise you, my friend, if you move past your atavistic reaction, you'll see how right this is. The sixth world is no place for compassion. It is a predatory world, a world of monsters. Some of those came with the awakening, and others are of our own design, but they are there. And if we are to survive, we need to shed those weaknesses to prevent us from competing with them. I speak with the clarity of a man who is not a man, in mind or in body. The things that others refuse to see are as plain as day to me. I tell you, my friend, life is better this way. One day you will see for yourself, and you will thank me for what I have shared with you. Well, how long do you think that can last? Indefinitely. What makes you ask? Ever heard of a natural ecosystem that's made up of nothing but predators? Intellectual curiosity. Yeah, ever heard of a natural ecosystem that's made up of nothing but predators? You're suggesting we'll burn ourselves out, annihilate ourselves. I will concede this is possible, but I think it unlikely. This is the sixth world, after all. Even if humanity is supplanted by post-humanity, there will be other forces at work in the world. We will not be alone. He'll probably share the world with machine intelligence, dragon spirits, that kind of thing. We're gonna become machine it. Okay. Yes, any form of intelligence that cannot or will not make the leap that we will make. Dragons and spirits would qualify. So would any metahuman holdovers that cling to their natural bodies. Artificial intelligence could also prove problematic. Your solution for dealing with these problematic species? That remains to be seen. Ideally, we would take the cleanest, simplest approach to dealing with them. What that approach might be would depend as much on them as it would on us. The corner of his mouth tilts upward. The smile contains no warmth. I, for one, am looking forward to seeing how it all plays out, aren't you? So where do we go from here? Forward, my friend. Always forward. Silently, Cochet studies you, its articulated pedipalps weaving hypnotically. You will join me, won't you? The future beckons for both of us equally. Follow me, and I will guide you into a better tomorrow. I can think of nothing that would please me more. Oh boy. For the present, though, you have my support. Very good, my friend. If nothing else, I will have ample time to convince you. But in the immediate future, there is the small matter of the walled city to contend with. I will, of course, continue to help you as best as I can. I need allies as badly as you do, and it is in my best interest to keep them alive. You're the most interesting person on this boat. It isn't often that a guy gets a chance to work with the man of the future. I suppose not, if you will excuse me. I know the drill. You see, you know me so well, as if we share a single mind. He nods, smiling. Goodbye. Okay. Well, that's a real thing that just happened. So, we're gonna call it here. Now with a super-sized episode, well, kind of slightly. So yeah, we'll see what's up next time. Maybe finally go on this last run. Well, I don't know if it's the last run, but this next run to take down Prosperity Tower. If we don't have anything more to talk about with our lovely party members. So yeah, that should be very interesting. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!